Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
All right. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I am your humble host, Tate. And today, we are finally here. It is the NBA playoffs. Golden State Warriors going for the three-peat against the first ever team outside of the United States to ever make an NBA Finals. We got the Toronto Raptors. Game 1 is tonight. And the first thing that I noticed about this was how it became one of those things where Canada had really just gotten behind Toronto. And you hear about Drake. And you see Jurassic Park and all the people that are surrounding. And then I saw this survey that was done. And it shocked the crap out of me. Actually, it didn't shock the crap out of me, but it surprised me. It's obvious that Canada is behind Toronto. But there was a survey done, and they polled all 50 states of who do you want to see win the NBA championship. And I was surprised. 47 states out of 50 picked Toronto. So not only does Canada want to see Toronto win, but the United States wants to see Toronto win. So 47 of the 50 states. The only two states that voted for seeing Golden State Warriors win again was California and Nevada, which pretty much everybody in Nevada, they're kind of from California, pretty much. Majority of the people are Californians, or close enough, considering I live in California here. And the one thing that it made me think is, why is Kawhi Leonard even thinking about leaving? They're already in the finals. They have a really great team. And the one thing you get when you play for Toronto is you get the love of an entire country. Canada is going to love Kawhi Leonard forever. He has a chance by winning this championship. Kawhi Leonard could be the king of Canada and the king of the United States, having two countries that back you. That means you are instantly a global icon. You look around, and even when he retires, Canada will still love him. Matter of fact, Vince Carter left Canada, and they still love him. So it is something to think about. Seeing what I'm seeing here, I don't think you can get that anywhere else. Toronto has lost their mind over the Toronto Raptors. Canada has lost their mind over the Toronto Raptors. And it makes for a very interesting series here. Now, when you start diving into the game and you start thinking, okay, what are the keys to winning this game? And I'm also going to tell you guys who I think is going to win, and I'm going to tell you why. When you think about Golden State's plan is early on is not necessarily to shut down Kawhi. It's going to be to play solid defense on everyone. But if Kawhi gets off, he gets off. They're not going to try to control Kawhi early on. Allow him to do what Kawhi does. But as the game gets late, the big thing that they're going to try to do is try to really press Kawhi in the fourth, where Kawhi is at his most dangerous. Allow him to burn himself out in the first, second, and third quarters. But in the fourth quarter, start pressing him, putting Draymond on him, putting Clay on him, double teaming him, forcing. The game plan is to force the ball out of his hands and force guys like Marc Gasol or Fred VanVleet to beat them, but not let Kawhi beat them in the fourth. They don't care if Kawhi goes off for 40 in the first three quarters. As long as they force that ball out of his hands in the fourth quarter. That is the game plan that Golden State is going to go with. Now, Toronto, their game plan, see, I got Houston on the brain because of all the talks about the trades and trading their entire roster off, which we will talk about shortly after this segment here. But in order for Toronto to win, Toronto has to be smart. And that means slow the pace down. No one can beat Golden State by having a shootout. If it's 115 to 120, I'm going to tell you that is a loss. The game plan is to slow the game down, make it a tough, gritty game, playing solid defense. The big thing is to pace Kawhi Leonard. You don't want Kawhi going off and burning himself out like James Harden did, in which you spend so much energy in that first and second, third quarter, but then can't answer the bell in the fourth quarter. And that's exactly what Golden State wants him to do. So being able to slow the pace down, make it a measured pace, make the game a very tough defensive game, cannot give up. I mean, they're going to have to play solid defense. They can't play them the way Toronto played Giannis, where you let him get open for threes, because Golden State is the greatest three-point shooting team in history. If you start pushing them back, but you're not covering that 13, 14, 15, 16-foot shot, Golden State will kill you. Not to mention, the next thing you need to do is, no matter how big of leads you have, you cannot get lax with them. You have to consistently play solid defense. Throughout this whole series, throughout the entire playoffs, Golden State has been behind on a numerous occasion, 10, 15 points down, and they just come back and win because they can close a gap so fast. Just one little period of time where you're lax, and Toronto can see a big giant lead disappear, just like the Trailblazers saw, just like the Houston Rockets saw. It's about playing consistent, and that's the reason why they have to pace themselves. They got to slow this game down, make it so that it becomes a war of attrition, where they want this game to be 95-98. You want it to be slow. You don't want to be in a run up and down the court type game, because that benefits Golden State. Now, when you think about this, when I started looking at this and I say, who do I think is going to win and why? I look at this game and I am taking Toronto to win the series. And this is the reason why. First off, Golden State has been off. They're actually they've given up home field advantage to Toronto this year. That home field advantage is going to be big. It is going to be crazy. The energy is going to be high. I clearly expect Toronto to win game 1. With that, Boogie Cousins is coming back as well. So Golden State, where they had this rhythm that was working really well for them, now they're going to have to figure out how to work in DeMarcus Cousins. This isn't the regular season. This is one of the tough things that even Steve Kerr was saying. If it was a regular season, game 1, we just put him in there and just say to heck with it. He's playing 20, 25 minutes until we work him in. But this is the NBA Finals. And if you try to force Boogie Cousins into this game, it's going to throw off the rhythm. Next, if Toronto goes up game 1, they figure out they win game 2, now you have a situation where they're going to bring Kevin Durant back. Now you got to figure out how to work in Kevin Durant and DeMarcus Cousins into a team who has been flowing through the playoffs because they haven't been there. So now you're trying to figure out how to work these guys back in. And yes, they have been playing for a while, but these are 7-footers. And they have to work themselves back into game shape. They're both also coming off of lower extremity injuries, which means being able to loosen up joints and muscles, just getting into that rhythm, getting in game shape is going to take longer than the playoffs is going to be around. It's enough to really throw things off. And that's the reason why I am taking Toronto to win in 6 games. Now, with that being said, if Kevin Durant was 100% healthy and DeMarcus Cousins was 100% healthy, they had went through the playoffs and they were totally playing like the Golden State Warriors were playing before the injuries, I would have taken Golden State all day in 5 or 6 games. But the fact that you're going to try to introduce 1 to 2 players into this series, I think is going to be a little more than Golden State is going to be able to do. Clay and Steph Curry is not going to have the same openings that that they're used to having, because the whole flow is going to change. It changes differently when Kevin Durant's out there. It changes differently when DeMarcus Cousins is out there. DeMarcus Cousins fills in a lot more in the middle, where Draymond Green likes to cut and drive down to the hole. It takes time. Yes, they're used to playing that way, but it takes time to adjust back to, once you've been playing this way without these guys, to adjust with them. In that adjustment period, that takes it into a situation where you could literally see a situation where they're down 0-2 going back into Oracle in the Bay Area, and Durant comes back, and now you're trying to really force Durant back in. That could get them into a hole. This is the reason why I am taking Toronto Raptors to win in 6, and it is confirmed that DeMarcus Cousins will be playing in tonight's game. I'm very curious to see how much he is going to be playing in this game. But like I said, you heard it here. I got the upset. I got Team Canada, who's going to win. The Toronto Raptors are going to win in 6 games. When we come back, we're going to talk about a team that didn't win it all at all. Matter of fact, it's time to blow the team up. We're going to talk about the Houston Rockets and the fact that Daryl Morey has just made a statement about the fact that the entire team is officially on the clock and available for trade. Stay tuned. We will be back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, we're back. We were just talking about the Golden State Warriors versus the Toronto Raptors game 1 tonight. I gave you my keys to the game and why I am taking Toronto to win the NBA championship over the Golden State Warriors, stopping them from reaching their three-peat goal. Now, this week, Daryl Morey of the Houston Rockets made a pretty bold statement. He made an announcement that it's come time to make some changes to the team and that all players are up for trade. Chris Paul, James Harden, Clint Capella, PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, Nene, everybody is up for trade. Now, he did stop as far as say it'd be kind of hard to believe or hard to imagine a situation where they would trade James Harden. But pretty much everyone else is fair game. And when you start thinking about that and you say, wow, that's a shocker. And I look at this and I say, why? Why break this team up? And I know the frustration is they cannot get past Golden State. But I tell you that the best decision is to stay the course. The best decision is to stay the course because there is a very, very good chance that Kevin Durant will not be with the Golden State Warriors next year. That changes the whole dynamic. And the team currently constituted could be good enough to win a championship. Now, one of the things, if I was going to make a change with the Houston Rockets, it would be to get rid of D'Antoni. D'Antoni's system has been proven to fail when it comes to playoff time. I remember looking at Phoenix, couldn't do it. New York couldn't do it. Lakers couldn't do it. That offense, you have to be able to play defense. You have to be able to rein in James Harden. And that's the big problem when it comes to the Houston Rockets when it comes to the playoffs. James Harden has no control. No one teaches him how to play well with others. And what I mean by play well with others is the simple fact that whenever the ball is being handled by Chris Paul, the offense is going through Chris Paul, pay attention, he shuts down. He is not engaged. When they're on defense, he's not engaged. In order to win a championship, you have to be engaged on offense at all times. when you're in the playoffs and you're trying to contend for a championship, you have to play defense. You look at the Warriors and you say, Steph Curry may not be the greatest defensive player, but he tries to play defense. And the rest of the team, it's one of the best defensive teams. It's one of the most underrated things about the Golden State Warriors is the fact that they play solid defense, and they play solid defense for 4 quarters. That's the reason why I say get rid of D'Antoni. Also, another reason why you look around and you say D'Antoni is the best decision. You're not going to get anything for Chris Paul. The only thing you can do is either just get rid of Chris Paul, because when you look at Harden and Chris Paul's contract, next year they count for 70% of the team's salary. The year after that, they count for 71%. The year after that, they count for 73%. Chris Paul, by the time his contract's up, he's 27. He's way past his prime. He's already past his prime. Are you really going? Do you really see anyone that is trying to make a run going to acquire a $140 million contract? When you look at this team and you say the Houston Rockets have one of the highest payrolls, if not, don't quote me on this, but I think they may have the highest payroll in basketball. If not, they're one of the top 3 teams with the highest payroll. But here's the biggest problem when you look at this team. They're the oldest team in the NBA. When you look at the contracts and you say a year, and Chris Paul there's about $124 million, 3 years left on it for $124 million. You got Chris Paul at $38.5 million. He's already 34. He'll be 35 by the time the season by the time midway through the season. The next year he's 36. He's 37 by the time they finally get out of that contract. It's a poison pill that I don't think there's anyone that's going to want it. James Harden at $37.8 million. He's age 30. But if you trade James Harden, what do you have left with this team? James Harden is not going to go anywhere. The Lakers aren't going to go and say, hey, LeBron for James Harden. I've heard that talked about. There's no way the Lakers are going to do that. So when you look at that, James Harden is staying. Chris Paul is staying because no one's going to want Chris Paul. He's an older player with $124 million left on his contract, and he's lost 2 or 3 steps. The attractive one is Clint Capella at $16.4 million, 25 years old. That is your most attractive piece. But he's also the piece that is the most attractive, but he's also the most promising piece. At only $16.4 million, he's under multiple years contract, young. Why would you get rid of Clint Capella? Eric Gordon at $14.1, he's 31 years old. PJ Tucker is an attractive piece. He's 34, but only $8.3 million. That's an attractive contract. Nene is at 3.8. He's 37. And then as far as draft picks go, they don't really have any major draft picks to speak of. How do you break this team up without destroying the team? I feel like any move that you make to redo this team, which is too old and too expensive, just sets yourself up to destroy a potentially championship team. Because without Steph Curry, do you not give the Houston Rockets a shot? Do you not give the Houston Rockets a shot against Toronto Raptors? Because I do. So breaking this team up I think is a bad decision. But you have a situation where Daryl Morey is desperate for a championship, and he is willing to do whatever it takes to get a championship. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to give you the latest news on Mr. Kyrie Irving. There are some reports out there that Kyrie is getting close to a decision, and there is some smoozing going on, and there is a lot of recruiting going on to bring Kyrie Irving to a team a little bit out west here. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right. In the last segment, we talked about the Houston Rockets and how Daryl Morey has decided that it's time to break the team up, even though they're cash-strapped and the oldest team in the league, and their most attractive piece that they would want to get rid of is Chris Paul, who's too old and too expensive, and James Harden is a piece that would just blow the franchise up if you got rid of him. So they're in a rock and a hard place. I suggested getting rid of D'Antoni, the coach. Speaking of changes to an organization, there is a guy who everyone is starting to put the pressure on, and the recruiting pitch has come to Kyrie Irving. Last week, there was reports that LeBron James had dinner with Kyrie Irving. Magic Johnson talked about how he would like to see Kyrie Irving come to the Los Angeles Lakers. And now the word comes out that Kyrie Irving's mentor, the guy he looks up to the most, is now recruiting Kyrie to come to the Los Angeles Lakers. That is Kobe Bean Bryant, the Black Mamba. The one person that has a lot of say, and he has a lot of Kyrie Irving's respect, is Kobe Bryant. He's talked about that Mamba mentality many a times. This is a very interesting situation because there's some reports saying that the two front runners are the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers, and that the Knicks have fallen behind. And it's looking close to those two teams. And if that's the case, if you're looking around and you're saying, what do you want between Brooklyn and the Lakers? Yes, you can say the Lakers have a lot of drama going on, but the Lakers are set to win. Kyrie could go. He can go back and join with LeBron, a person that he knows, a person that he has had a lot of success with, a guy that he has realized that he handled wrong and has contacted him and apologized and misses what he had with LeBron. But this wouldn't be the Cleveland situation because of the fact that the Lakers would have LeBron. They would have Kyrie. But an interesting thing, if Kyrie did go to the Lakers, you would have a situation where right now, when you look at the Lakers, they only have 5 guys on their roster. That's it. They have LeBron James. They have Lonzo Ball. They got Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, and Josh Hart. Rondo and the rest of the crew are gone. They can go out. If Kyrie came there, they got plenty of room. If they wanted to keep the current team intact, they could go for some and want to surround LeBron with some shooting. You could bring Kyrie in. You can bring Seth Curry, not Steph Curry, but Seth Curry. You could go after a J.J. Redick or a Trevor Ariza or a Danny Green, in which you could actually put together a team with Lonzo, Kyrie, Ball, Ingram, Curry, J.J. Redick, or Ariza, where you would have the shooting. Kyrie and LeBron would handle the ball. That is a championship team there. Or option 2 is you could package up Ball or Ingram or Kuzma. You can pack in the 4th pick. You could either put 1 or 2 of them. You could get 2 or 3 of them. You could package them all and end up with their own personal big 3, which a number of executives are starting to think. There's been word that a number of executives are starting to think that the Lakers will get a big 3, that they're going to get Anthony Davis, Kyrie, and LeBron James in Los Angeles. And then that is a championship team to speak of. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Anthony Davis, because we were just talking about how he would be the perfect fit. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about that. Stay tuned, and we'll be back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, we're back, and we were just talking about Kyrie Irving and how the Lakers have the full court press on Kyrie. Kyrie's had dinner with LeBron James. Word's out that Magic wants him to come there to the Lakers. And now Kobe Bean Bryant is now recruiting Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's mentor, the guy he looks up to, Kobe Bryant. And the word is out that pretty much it has been narrowed down to the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers for where Kyrie wants to go to lend his services. When you think about it and you say, you look at the pieces that they have, if Kyrie went there with LeBron and Kyrie, you could package up a deal that would send LeBron James, Lonzo Ball or Brandon Ingram or Kyle Kuzma or Josh Hart, or all 4 of those guys, minus LeBron, that is, to the New Orleans Pelicans for Anthony Davis. That is a very interesting team. That's a team that could win. And especially with the news that David Griffin, who has been consistently saying that he thinks he can get Anthony Davis to stay. Well, David Griffin met with Anthony Davis, had a nice little meet and greet, just to introduce himself with the purpose of showing Anthony Davis that this is not your old New Orleans Pelicans. We got Zion coming, and you and Zion will be this force to reckon with. And how they've really improved their medical staff. It's no longer using a football team's medical staff. The New Orleans Saints, they have their own. How there are all these improvements that's going on. But after the meeting, when you start looking at things, the word got back that they have notified David Griffin that Anthony Davis has not changed his mind. He wants out of New Orleans. This is putting a touchy situation because there is a limited time on how long you can keep this going on. David Griffin wants to have another meeting with Anthony Davis to pitch him on how we want you to stay, what we can do to keep you here, and what we can do to make you this global star with Zion. But it's not working. Anthony Davis wants out. The damage has been done. He has been a star in a little market, and he wants to go to LA or New York. There's talk that Boston is interested in him. New York is talking about packaging up their pick, that third pick, and whatever they can do. But I still tell you, if you take personal feelings aside of what the New Orleans Pelicans or front office feels about the Lakers, the best offer out there is what the Lakers can put together. That fourth pick, and you pick your guy between Hart and Kuzma and Ingram and Ball. That's a team that you could turn things around and really start your franchise going in the right direction. You would have Zion, let's say, and you add those Lakers pieces, and that's a solid rebuilding organization right there. But I feel like David Griffin has this approach that I can wait till the trade deadline to get rid of him. But if you wait till the trade deadline, the offers that are going to be available are going to be significantly less. If Kyrie goes to the Lakers, which I do think he's going to go to the Lakers, if Kyrie goes to the Lakers and it's LeBron and Kyrie and Kuzma and Ingram and Ball's healthy and they're really lighting the world on fire, you could have a situation where all of a sudden those offers that were put out there are no longer there, and you may have to settle on an offer or send him somewhere that he doesn't want to go and end up with a fraction of what you could have gotten, because you could fleece the Lakers right now and get pretty much that entire young core for Anthony Davis. The Lakers want a big three, and they're willing to give up everything to get it. And I think the New Orleans Pelicans should take it. With that, we're gonna wrap things up here because we got the game that's going on tonight. Very looking forward to it, as I have the Toronto Raptors winning this game, game 1. I also have them winning the series in 6 games. I'll be back on tomorrow to tell you if I was right or wrong. No matter what, I'll be here. With that, enjoy the game, and we'll talk tomorrow. Have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.